Today is the 21st of May 2010, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about making changes to get away from this corruption that we are currently having within this economic system. Talk about a revolution, and I'll finish it off within investing and the stock market. Demcad was stating today that what do we, the people, need to do to make these changes away from the corruption that we are currently facing? We find out that Goldman Sachs and all these other bankers are making all of this money on a day by day basis, doing their high frequency trading, and the question is, are you sick of it or are you all right with it? And well, since this is about making change, what do we have to do to make these changes? We're finding this information out. What now? The first thing, or I think the most important thing, is the education part, understanding what's going on and then understanding what type of strategies would be best used to make changes. For making a change is doing something different. That could mean taking money out of the financial institution, selling stocks, getting out of your 401k, and then taking that money and investing in real assets like food, gold, silver, equipment that you can actually use, all of those sort of things. And that itself is going to make change. For if enough people were to say, you know what, enough's enough and it's time for a change, then it's going to happen. You see more and more people fed up with the banking system, withdrawing their money away from the accounts. That will make the changes. So you get the education. The key thing is doing something about it. You can find out that we are slaves to the dollar, that the money is backed by debt or backed by nothing, and there's so much other information. Well, now that you know this, so what are you going to do about it? Because if you do nothing, then, well, nothing is going to happen. So the key thing is do something about it. Just don't complain. If you complain, what's that going to get you? Where is that going to get you? Nowhere. Another big thing is informing others. And yes, this can be extremely frustrating. A lot of people just don't seem to get it or don't seem to care. This is extremely normal to have happen, but more and more people will start to get it on a day by day basis. And in my opinion, more people are going to get it than forget it on a day by day basis. Meaning, if, say, today there's I don't know, say 50,000 Americans that wake up and maybe 2,500 that forget it. And most of the people that forget it will be those who pass on or maybe get brainwashed or I don't know. Nonetheless, what I'm stating is once you take the red pill, there is no going back. At least so it seems, because so many times I've taken my nature walks, and I think, man, there's just some days I wish I didn't know this information that I know, that I could just go back to my old way of living 10, 20 years ago. But that's just not going to happen. And we're in the midst of a major revolution right now where things are changing. It's growing slowly or slower than I thought it would, but it is growing and there is power in numbers, which is why it is very important in informing as many people as you can to what's going on. And then when more and more people get informed, that's when the changes will take place. We're seeing a lot of riots and we're seeing a lot of protests going on. In Greece, this is happening. Next month in Toronto, Canada, you'll be seeing a lot of protests on Yonge Street and Front Street during the G20 summit meetings. Question is, do you want to protest peacefully or non-peacefully, thus being violent? If you protest violently, then the powers that be or the riot police, they're able to defend against this. They are very well trained and they have nice equipment in combating whatever it is you are trying to do. A peaceful revolution, that doesn't guarantee you're not going to get arrested or they're going to go after you, but it definitely reduces the chances because it becomes very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not unconstitutional, but maybe it is. But if you're peaceful and they're fighting back against you, Well, that's just wrong. We've seen that in Pittsburgh last year, but it's very uncommon for this to happen. And that's a lot. That's what I'm going to talk about as far as making changes. And I'm going to talk about investing and the stock market. If you go to or go to the Yahoo Finance webpage, or maybe even any of them, Bloomberg, CNBC, CNN, it really doesn't matter too much, and you scroll down to see a list of articles within investing, well, you're going to get a common thread, and that is investing in stocks, investing in bonds, investing in different hedge funds, or even gold or silver ETFs. That's the majority of every investing article. But what you're not going to see is investing in sport games, like the Stanley Cup Finals or the NBA Finals or any football game. You don't see that. But what's the difference in betting on sports and on the equity market? You're not going to get any articles on poker strategy or how to win on the slot machine. After all, there is not much of a difference, in my opinion, within the slot machine, the poker strategy, sports betting, or the stock market. The similarities are they're all forms of gambling. You're not going to see articles in investing in real metals, especially for the reasons why, because of a fiat currency. There's a few of them based on that, but not many. And you especially will not find any articles telling you to store up on food, have a plan for getting your bottled water or your fresh water from sources, different spring waters, however it is you want to get it, getting your food, your canned goods, having your freezer filled with different foods, and even some emergency foods that can last for so many years. You don't get too much of that, and it's all about the stock market. And it's not only a casino, but it's a violent casino, because if you were to make a bet for $20 or $30 on a football game, you're not really going to win or lose that much on the game. In a stock market, you really can't play for low stakes. You really can't put $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 into an equity account and expect to keep on buying and selling stocks when you're making $10 and $20 trade commissions per trade. It's not that feasible, and thus it can be very frustrating for some people who end up losing on the stock market. And I seen an interesting article, and it stated stocks rose on Friday with bank shares leading a rebound as worries embedded over sovereign debt crises. And we get these articles, and they're telling us that the bank shares go higher because the worries aren't as bad on the debt crisis. And when you look at these articles, take a look at them and try to figure out different things. Well, what are they trying to tell you? Why are they trying to tell you? And what's the real truth within it? Is the sovereign debt crisis over, or is any of these debt crises over? Because we've been talking for so long about how money is created and how debt is guaranteed, and they don't want you to know this information. After all, you're not going to turn on CNN or ABC and get the information that you would find regarding how money is created. No, because they don't want you to know. And because they don't want you to know, they think that by telling you that the sovereign debt crisis is fine, that it's all going to be okay. They've been telling us that there's been an economic recovery going on now for about a year. And if you look at what's going on with the economy, if you take a clear look at how our resources are being distributed, how many people are still going through difficult times, a recovery does not sound feasible. On CNBC, there was an article that says this week's vicious stock market slump set up the perfect buying opportunity for investors who finally received their long-awaited market correction. And they tell us that it's a correction, and markets are supposed to correct. After all, it's usually about 10-15% that markets are going to correct. And well, normally when that's the case, that means one day it's going to lose 1.5%, then maybe we lose 2% here, but when we have days where the market loses 1,000 points in one day, we end up having a 400-point rally that gets sold off so fast. Does that look like a normal correction to you? And once again, if you are to believe this, then what you are doing is you are gambling, trying to win. You might win, and once again, you might lose. We are seeing a lot of big moves in the stock market, many, many wild swings, and in my opinion, this is suited mainly only for experienced day traders. If you really want to play this type of game, it's an interest, my suggestion is to figure out strategies and how to do it. Maybe play for fun at first. Sign up with one of those accounts that you trade for free, or just even do it on a spreadsheet or a pen and paper. Write down when you buy, write down when you sell, and see if you would be profiting before you risk any of your money. That's my opinion, and overall, it's like I say, it's a violent market today. We seen 9:35 today, the Dow at 99.20. And then over the next 30 minutes, we had a 200-point rally. The end of the day was really, really volatile. At 3:40, we seen a 100-point rally that spanned 6 minutes. And then we had a 35-point downwards correction over 5 minutes. And then after that correction was over, up 85 minutes over the final 10 minutes. Therefore, the stock market or the Dow was up 125 on Friday and down 425 for the week. This, once again, is gambling. And if you're a day trader, you get stopped out a lot of times because of bad luck, or you're not skilled, or you're losing on commission, then you're losing. That's what gamblers do sometimes, is they lose. And well, some people will state, well, that's not investing. Investing is buying and holding on the long run. And okay, so if you do that and you buy a stock, what are you supposed to do if it starts going down? Do you put a stop loss if it retraces 10 or 20%? If that's the case, then you're going to lose 10 or 20% like gambling. Then you lose. And well, if they tell you not to put a stop loss, what happens if it totally gets destroyed? You buy Citigroup at $26 a share back in 2008. Well, what do you do now when it goes down to $4 or $5 a share? Once again, that is losing within gambling. And these are the same people that do not educate you on options, sort of like insurance, on how to protect yourself from a stock market crash, which is thus like buying puts. If you were to buy the S&P 500 broad market through SPY, and you want to go for the long term, and you decide, well, I want to protect myself. If you buy puts for different amounts at different time frames, if the Dow Jones falls to like 5,000, then you're fine because you'll be able to sell those puts for whatever they happen to be worth, which should thus become a profit. Of course, this is all part of the paper Ponzi scheme and the banking part of the game, and that means you never know what they're going to do. This options game is part of the derivative market. They say it's going to fall, and for good reason. So be very, very careful. After all, they're trying to tell us that everything's fine. The debt crisis is the reason why we're having these problems. And well, is the United States ever going to have a debt crisis? It's pretty evident to myself that they will. But anyway, I'm going to end it at that. Remember, if you want to make changes, do something different. Have yourself a magnificent weekend. Bye-bye.